Back Road Ministry, the world premiere. Mr. Moxley coming at you live and direct. Just wanted to talk about this whole Asian hate situation, the Asian hate attacks that have been going on in New York over the past couple of days. And these are all staged and scripted for the New York mayoral election. So there were 4 attacks, including an assault that hammered on Asian Americans in New York over the weekend. So they're just saying that random. And if you've been paying attention to the New York situation, all the perpetrators of the Asian hate have been black. This is how they're posting it. Every attack has been black people attacking Asian people. Remember now, when we talk about the Asiatic black man, we're talking about the connection of Africa and Asia at one point, and the race, pretty much spanning from those two prominent areas, the Asiatic. So we're talking about the Indian, or what people like to call Hindus and Pakistani brothers. We talk about the Chinese, and we talk about the African or the Asiatics, all of them coming from the same region at one point. So here we have all these attacks, black on Asian, and pretty much it's because of the upcoming election. And remember, the prime candidates in this mayoral election coming up is an African American brother and an Asian American candidate. So of course, the hate crime is to get the Asian American vote out. Get the Asian American vote out in New York at full capacity. Get as many voters as you can, because the Asian Americans want to be able to say, hey, we're taking New York. We're going to take over what I like to call Tenement Hall. So all your attackers, and if you go down the list and you can look at all your pictures, you're going to find that all your attackers have been African American, and that's the agenda. That's the way they want it, and that's the way they report it. Every week, that's the way they're going to report it. So I'm trying to pull up some on the election, but not really able to get anything on the election. So Ballotpedia 2021, we know our candidates. Not seeing anything on it, but pretty much that's what that's all about, and that's what the agenda's all about. And that's why you keep seeing these stories. Black attacks Asian. You got your black mayoral candidate. You got your Asian mayoral candidate. So you get out the vote by creating hate, and you're going to create a situation where Asians now hate blacks in New York. Asians hate blacks in New York. And I'm going to tell you something about some of the stuff you see in these reports, and they're always pretty much done by the same reporting areas. You see, this is CNN reporting this. Black Lives Matter, but they don't at the same time. I'll say this again. Black Lives Matter, but they don't at the same time, because anytime they try to pass agendas, who do they grab? Majority black people. So don't think for one second that this police refunding thing is a positive. Police refund is going to be negative. If you've seen RoboCop and you've seen privatized police forces and what goes on in that, imagine a real militarized police force with no emotion that just busts people upside the head and just stands on corners like the Gestapo. Now, is that where we want to be? So the first thing they have the Asian candidate do in this situation, of course, is he states that he's not going to defund the police. So immediately they want to really stir up, the story by basically, let me see if I can pull him up. Pull up my Asian candidate. So here's Here's our black candidate, Mr. Adams. We got Adams. Adams is our African-American candidate. Adams running out of New York. Mayor's race polls. We got Adams here. He's our black candidate. And see if we can pull up. Can't find my Asian candidate out of this. And I wanted to pull up my Asian candidate so everybody can see my, I think this is my Asian candidate here. That's Mr. Adams, a black candidate. I can't see my Asian candidate, but you know, we have so here we go. So that's Adam, pretty much our black candidate. So he's leading right now. He's leading in the vote. But don't think for 1 second that, you know, with this whole Asian hate thing, and I'll do another story on this, pull out the Asian candidate. But don't think that's not why these stories have been designed. They want to get out that Asian vote. Right now he's leading. Adams, the black candidate, is leading. But that's why they keep every 5 and 10 minutes hitting you with another story. And both majority out of New York with the Asian hate crimes. Except for the one where the gentleman walked into the massage parlor. Every 5 minutes in New York, somebody's Asian is so-called being attacked. And I always look at the pictures. We'll do a picture breakdown so we can see the gematria in the pictures and how they stage and rig. So we'll do one of those. But that's what this is all about. You know, this is about the upcoming election. They got to get the Asian vote out by any means necessary. So, of course, they use black people, as they always do, to try to pass an agenda. Black people evil. Black people beat up Asians, their own Asiatic brothers, to, you know, spurn a story. Remember now, they wrote a whole hate crimes bill based upon black people in New York beat up Asians, so we need an Asian hate crime bill. When black folk in New York ain't paying no attention. I mean, think about how stupid this story is. And once again, when we go back to people who don't pay attention or don't live in these environments, think about these stories. Half of your beauty supply stores in New York are owned by Asians. Majority of them. Majority of these stores. Asian Americans own a lot of stores in predominantly African American community. They have long-standing relationships with African Americans. The favorite food in New York City for New Yorkers outside of pizza is Chinese food. You might have 3-4 Asian restaurants in a community because of the relationships that have been built over the years. Now, not saying there hasn't been crime, there has been crime, but the Asiatics have been together for generations. Not just a one-thing thing. So for an election, this is what they try to create. Black people hate Asians. See, they're trying to hit them with hammers and all this. So New York Asian man, you must come out, and women, you must come out and vote. You gotta vote against this. Caucasians vote against these African Americans. Look what they do to the Asian community. And then the Asian American candidate, of course, black backs the police officers in the city. He's got the biggest organization behind him, which is the New York FOP, Fraternal Order of Police. So we'll see how this goes with Adams. Right now, Adams has a majority of votes, so they say. But we'll see how this kind of turns as we move closer down the stretch. But, you know, by design, you design a set of stories to make African Americans look like they hate Asian American people. So why should Asian Americans and Caucasian Americans vote for these violent beasts to attack people with hammers? But Black Lives Matter. Now, so remember the lie they always say. We talked about the Demoncrats and, you know, the Republicans, they're all together. But this takes place in a Demoncrat state, New York, Demoncrat city, New York City, and how they put things together. But then they always turn around and say, therefore the people. Or we love African Americans. Okay, so why every story have you have staged and scripted stories of African Americans assaulting Asian Americans when that's not going on in the city? Ain't nobody really paying nobody no attention to that. See, black Americans do more harm to each other than anybody else. But now you're gonna have these staged scripted stories as though African Americans just running around hitting random Asian people with hammers. But that's what they do to us. These are the Demoncrats. These are the people who you vote for. These are the people who you keep saying have your best interests at heart, and then they turn around and do this to you. And the same Mr. Adams, the African American that's running there, is a part of the same script. He's no different from any other thing. They want an Asian in office in New York, and they're going to get it, as Malcolm said, by any means necessary. If they had to use niggas to do it, that's what they're going to do, because they always use us for the same way. And until we start saying something about it, they'll continue to use us for the same agenda. They got you to vote for president based upon you don't like the other guy. Think about that. You voted out the other guy just because you didn't like the other guy, and voted for a guy who locked up more people of color than anybody. Most of the young men who got locked up in the 90s because of the bills that this guy got across the table with the Clintons. Remember 3 strikes you out? Hold up, ladies and gentlemen. Remember 3 strikes you out? That did happen on the Democrat watch. Biden was in office when 3 strikes you out got signed. Think about it, people, as you run to your Democrat masters who's been your friend for all this time. It's time to end these parties. The Republicans, the Democrats, they need to go. It's time for a true party of the people, where we focus on what we need and move the elite out the way. The world elite, they want to play the game a certain way. There's enough organizations here where we can play the game with the world elite and still win. But we got to be willing to fight the world elite, and we're not. We let the Demoncrats dictate. We let the Republicans dictate. Somewhere inside of this, we got to begin to stand up and fight for ourselves. So this is the agenda. You see the agendas, they pass them right in your face. Asian hate, or black people just hate Asian people, but they're always at the Chinese restaurant supporting them. This is what it is. This is what it is. So watch this. This all this has to do with it is that mayoral election. We'll see what comes out on Adams in the weeks to come, and this situation will probably get worse in script before it gets better. And I say worse in script because I work in New York. I don't see any Asian hate. I don't see Asian hate. And when we talk about Asian, we're not just talking about one set of people, because some people think that the only Asian is Chinese. Indians are Asian. People who are Hindu, people who are Pakistani, people that are of Indian descent, real Indians, not the made-up mythical Indian that we have in America that have nothing to do with India, but real Indians from India that work at the 7-Elevens. Most of them own the 7-Elevens in New York. That's not a stereotype. That's smart business. Are Asian. And they are people of color, just like Africans and other African American people of color. So they get us into this war between ourselves, and we buy into the war. This is the Chinese trying to make a power play. Remember, the Asiatics have always been at war. We work together, but we don't trust each other when it comes to everything. So this is a Chinese power play to get New York. And once they get New York, they got New York. Remember, New York still has a lot to do with the finances. Remember that. Once they get New York, like we said, coming out of this pandemic, New York is never going to be the same. And we already are seeing that New York's about to change, and it's never going to be the same again. Get ready for it. Everything in life is going to the south. That's why Florida is on the move. If you're paying attention, Florida's on the move. Texas is about to blow up. Pay attention to what's going on. So, another just staged, scripted game being played by the elite to force you to go ahead, man. You're a crazy driver, but to force you to vote and force Asians to vote for an Asian candidate. That's all this is about. A candidate they really don't know too much about. But to force Asian Americans and other Asians in New York City to vote for America. That's all this is about. Get you to hate black folk enough where you say, oh man, look at those black people and they're attacking our people with hammers. We gotta vote for this guy who they know nothing about, who's done, I mean, I don't know his record in Chinatown, but maybe he has a strong record in New York Chinatown. I don't know. He could be from Staten Island, who knows? But this is how they do it. So, you know, voting is not what it used to be. Voting used to be you voted for a candidate because he was doing something. Voting today is we manipulate you into voting for a person based upon bullshit. You voted, like I said, you voted for president and put the 3 strikes you out man in office because they told you not to like the other guy. Yet the other guy, who wasn't the greatest, did pass a lot of bills that were helpful bills. What is this guy doing? He gave you $3 gasoline. You know, cops still hate niggers. You know, the same crap. And you need to get an injection. That's it. That's the platform. And then we got the whole illegal situation where all these people who are undocumented are flooding across the top of the border, while on the bottom of the border we got cocaine coming back into the cities. Pure uncut, coming back into the cities. This is what he's giving me. Get ready for the roaring 20s. It's Demoncrats, Back Row Ministry. Peace.